Krystle, and welcome back to Season 3 of Unlock the Story. I am so thrilled that we are getting going on Unlock the Story once again after about 2 years of basically being at home, doing little bits of little things. We had one of the busiest end of winter, spring, summer that we've had ever. But it was fantastic. It meant that we were working in person with people, performing live and doing projects together, and it was so wonderful. Unfortunately, it meant that Unlock the Story went on hiatus just a little bit earlier, but that's okay. We're back. We are here, we're ready to roll. And this beginning part of our season, we're gonna take a look at our Psalms microfilms. Now, back in this winter into the spring, early summer, we released Cycle 1, and oh my goodness, we were so excited to have it. If you haven't watched the Psalms microfilms, there'll be a card somewhere up here and definitely linked in the description box where you can go and watch the entire Cycle 1, 7 Psalms microfilms. They are absolutely fantastic. But also to accompany those releases, we did some interviews. Jason and I took a look at the actors' reflections. We discussed what was it like to be on set, what was it like to film these microfilms, and I wanted to bring these interviews and conversations here to our Unlock family. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start today with a conversation between Jason and I where we're looking at our own microfilms and what it was like for us to be part of this project. So sit back, relax, and let's get right into Jason and I's conversation looking at Psalm 23 and Psalm 121. Okay, here we go. Well, welcome everyone. We're really excited for Jason and I just to be sitting down and having this off-the-cuff conversations around the actor interviews. So this is something we haven't really talked about yet. We haven't released it yet. And this is the first moment that we're doing that, really. We're doing it all in one. But when we filmed the Psalms microfilms, we also took the time to interview each performer and ask them a few questions about the experience. So that's what we're going to do right now is watch those interviews. And then Jason and I are just going to talk a little bit about that and the whole experience of filming each psalm. So let's watch Jason's actually actor interview for Psalm 23. Psalm 23.
Yeah. Well, a whole bunch of reasons. Right from the beginning, I wanted to do 23, probably because it was my grandma's favorite psalm, and it's always been one of those ones. One of the tricky parts of this whole thing was I learned it from a child in the NIV translation. Of course, we're in the voice translation, so it was tricky trying to get my head around, the difference in translations, but it's always meant something significant to me, the whole notion of being lifted up, being carried, being shepherded, and finding my grounding in God has been, it's just been such a significant psalm in my life and walking through so many things and so many people I know as well.
So how is the psalm impacting you today as you performed it?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I think that the idea of the whole project is to get actors, but people to be vulnerable and connected to the thing as a means of helping others to give permission for them to be where they're at as well. And it's really kind of, I love doing these things because it forces me to really go deep and connect and be present with myself in the midst of the text. And I mean, that's the heart of the project. And I think that's why I love doing it, and that's why we're doing it. So.
And why this location? What's special about being in an alley?
Yeah, so I love being in this alley because I live in the city, and my way of listening to God is walking back alleys. And my way of memorizing text for shows as an actor is back alleys. So I walk the city's alleys for years. For 20 years I've been walking around the alleys of Toronto, and so I've walked this alley so many times in my life, and I really love this alley. There's something special about this alley. I go to a church that's very close to here, and so we serve a lot of the street-involved people who end up being in this alley, and so I feel like for me, some people say, where do you hear God the most? Well, it's in nature, and I do that too, but I find like I get quiet and have a capacity to listen much better in a back alley in the city than I do anywhere else.
And where's the breath for you in this song?
Oh, the breath is permeated through the whole thing. I think there's that moment where, well, there's a couple moments through but I am comforted is kind of the moment where I feel kind of connected in to, oh, am I comforted? And I think that I love these Psalms because you can ask those questions. So, when we entered into this piece that 23, I really wanted to come with I'm not comforted and I'm coming to get comforted. And I've been comforted before and I want to be comforted again. And so I'm going to walk the alley until I get comforted, until you bring the comfort. It's a little bit like Jacob and God wrestling, or Jacob wrestling the angel. He's like, I'm not leaving until you bless me. And I feel like this is a bit how we approach, or I have approached this psalm. It's like, I'm coming into this alley and I'm not leaving until I get what I need, which is comfort.
What do you think, Jason? Like, we get the unique opportunity to watch our own actor reflections. Uh, where does that take you when you watch that? Because that was filmed not quite a year ago, but 9 months ago now.
Yeah, I think I was that psalm was the first one that we shot.
Hmm.
We started at 4 a.m. Uh, a little uncertain of how it would work. We had planned it all out, but we weren't quite sure what it would feel like. I had both my producer hat on, my director hat on, and my actor hat on, and I had to set the whole moment up. And then I had to turn all those things off and just be present in the text. And there was something magical about that moment. Nobody else was there except us and the birds. I was struck by the
Mm,
birds because whenever we had gone there before, it was either in the afternoon or late in the evening, and there were no birds chirping like that. And so it was
yeah.
a little overwhelming that these birds were there and kind of were almost like they were responding to the text as well or something like that. And yeah, and we were, because it was the first one, we had all these other ones we had scheduled to shoot in the following week and the weeks. And there was it was like, opening night on a play where you've done all the work, you hope it's going to make sense, and you have to jump off the cliff, and we kind of jumped
Yeah.
off the cliff, and we're really happy about it. It took me how many takes did we do? Like 15 or 17 takes, I think.
We took a
And
lot.
and
We did a lot. I
finally on the
think
last three or
yeah.
four, it
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like a fun fact. I think your song we did the most takes out of anyone. But it also makes sense
Probably,
because as a
probably
team,
true.
as a team, it was our first one. It was as you said, like 4 a.m. in the morning arriving in this little back alley. There's some really funny behind the scene clips of like the first few takes of me walking behind the crew, like pushing the garbage out of the way so we could walk silently while recording. So not trip over our feet. And yeah, that I love listening to your words and to your responses, especially around what you said about uh, the alleyway being an important place for you to meet God and not wanting to leave until you got what you
Hmm.
came for. And I'm just curious again, because we have the privilege of watching our own. Uh,
Sure.
is that still true for you today, even a year later? Do you still feel that way about
Yeah, it, it,
alleyways?
it is true for me. And I went through a season, as you know, I broke my femur about 5 months ago. And when I did that, I couldn't be mobile like I normally am to do that kind of walking and exploring and listening. And so I felt like I'd missed it for a while, and just again recently started to walk again.
Hmm.
And I realized I missed it even more than I thought I did. And so yes is the answer. I have hashed through a lot of big decisions in alleys. I've walked through a lot of my own brokenness, trying to sort through what does it mean to walk with God, to love my family well, all those kind of things. And I have also found that like I said in the interview, that um, when I don't know the answers, or I'm in a place of stuckness or frustration, I go to walk the alleys, and I kind of make it my plan, like I'm not leaving God until I've worked it through. And that psalm has been really significant for me to do that. And in talking with one of our good friends, Tom Carson, who consulted my acting and your acting on the film and was there that morning, we had discussed that we really wanted to use the psalm, not to be like, here's the psalm, here's an expression, but rather to approach it like I needed to find the moment where I felt comforted, and then by the end to be resolved. And I think I'm pretty happy that it actually worked out, because I was like, oh, I hope I can get to that moment by the end.
Yeah.
And so when we start the whole thing off, there's that angst and that irritation in my spirit. Like, all right, I'm going to use these words, this sacred God breathed text, to really get in God's face and say, we have to meet. I need your intimacy now, and if I don't get it, in fact, I'm not going to leave until I get it.
Yeah.
And I felt like that's what we were able to accomplish in that. It really set the template for the whole project.
It really did. It really did.
And that was a really big epiphany and surprise and joy, is that at the end of the shoot, the whole team felt like, oh wait, this works. Because you start something and you hope it works. And you think, well, am I just crazy? Was this thing I felt like I should be doing, like I felt inspired to do? Does it really make sense? Because I tell people, well, we're going to shoot the Psalms, and they go, what? Like, what is that? But when we finished it, and then all of us thought, oh, there's something special here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my favorite moment of that shoot was, I think it was the second to last take that we did, and the sun just started to peek between the buildings, and like that was my favorite moment of the whole shoot, because it just felt like this moment of like, Holy Spirit has come. And I think it was one of your best takes too. I think it's actually the take we used in the end, was that
Probably.
second to last take. But it just had this feeling of like the Holy Spirit just descended into that moment. And after that, I've just felt like every microfilm, every psalm that we filmed, we were kind of just continually waiting for that moment. Like, let's just film and keep going until we feel like we've hit that moment of the Holy Spirit coming. And as an actor, you don't always know when you've hit that moment, but as the crew watching it and observing it and experiencing it, all of a sudden you kind of go, oh, there it is. Yep, we got that moment. And we had that with every single one. So that was really cool.
And I think the other thing to back on the birds, because the birds were so unusual, and I don't think I really recognized the significance of them until we were in editing. But there was that moment where the sun breaks through, and then I'll be in your house forever. They're the last line, and then there was this like cacophony of bird sounds, like heaven went, yes, you're good. And I was like, okay, well, this is done. I'm going to turn around and walk out of the alley because I got what I came for.
Yeah. Let's watch the psalm now, and just in light of the things we talked about, let's view Psalm 23.
You spread out a table before me in the midst of attack from my enemies. You provide for my needs, anointing my head with soothing, fragrant oil, filling my cup again and again with your grace. Certainly your faithful protection and loving provision will be with me where I go, always, everywhere. I will always be with you, eternal.
I love it. I love it. Um, again, because this is your psalm. We're gonna watch my psalm in just a moment. Um, we get this unique kind of extra behind the scenes
Yes.
uh, moment with it. And so I'm going to actually answer this question more rather than asking you, because you performed it. And so one of the questions that we wanted to talk about as we do this behind the scenes actor reflection interviews are, how does knowing the actor's thoughts kind of change how you as a viewer then interact with the psalm? Does it change it? And is it helpful to kind of know some of these behind the scenes thoughts and ideas? Um, and one of the things I find really interesting about knowing more about your thoughts is having for myself that moment of like, and that question of, do I press to the point of I got what I needed? Or do I exit those moments with God too quickly? And there's something really encouraging and beautiful about watching you go through Psalm 23 and knowing that for you, you were like, yes. And and because you know that behind the scenes, you're thinking, yes, I've had this moment. Then when you're watching it, you can be like, oh, yeah, I see it. I see that moment now. But then for me, it just begs the question of like, do I stay or do I exit too fast? And it's a real encouragement to stay in the moment and say, you know what, like you need to have a complete journey and don't cut it short.
And
So I think,
I find
yeah,
for me that my challenge is, will I go to the alley?
yeah, that's true. Because
Right,
sometimes it just
where
feels
my
almost
thing
too
is like,
much to come.
I'm so busy, I have things to do, and I know I have this
Yeah,
angst in my heart. I've got this thing to work out, but God, I don't have time to go to the alley. And He's like, well, we're not
you're
working
gonna
this
miss out
out in
then.
any other way. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Jason, so much for your performance in Psalm 23, for your vulnerability and for going there and for really like I you know, it's so interesting when I think back about this project and like how it started and the conversations that you and I had that built into this thing. And I'm just so excited that as our visionary lead creative principal at JHCA, that you were like, yes, we need to do this because it has been completely worth it and so exciting to see it coming together. So
it's really
thank you.
exciting, and I've loved just watching how people have filtered into this whole experience from a crew standpoint, from a performer standpoint, and even just watching and listening to the feedback of people who have been
Mhm.
meaningfully touched by the work. It's exciting.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna switch gears and we're gonna actually watch my actor interview for Psalm
Yay!
121.
I haven't seen this yet.
Oh, it's good.
So, what was your experience with 121 today?
I can't be serious
Do
with
it,
it.
do it, come on, it's good.
Oh, actually, it was really freeing because for me, this process is very real. Like, it's speaking out loud the things I speak to myself in those deep moments of like being completely overwhelmed and feeling crushed. And yeah, like, especially like that center section of just preaching the gospel to yourself, of getting it all out there, reminding yourself of the truth. So yeah, it was a lot of fun and really freeing to do it on camera.
Cool. Why a doc in Muskoka?
Yeah, well, it's either that or my couch, because I guess just the real places where I spend time with God, definitely in nature, on water, by water. It really is a place where I feel God's presence. It's where I just can breathe and like you hear the sounds all around you, and so that's just really meaningful to me and a great place to meet God. Yeah.
Cool. And did you have any discovery or unexpected thing that happened while you were performing today?
Not so much unexpected, but very desired. I'm not, everyone who knows me well knows that I'm not someone who cries a lot. And I knew that's where I wanted to go today. So I was really happy, pleased, one of those adjectives, to be able to just to really be really open and vulnerable and go that deep. So
What would you hope for somebody who is watching this?
that they would have permission to be where they're at with God. You know, I've had times where I'm yelling at God, where I'm angry with God, where I feel really hopeless. And so I just hope that as they experience this song for themselves, they would feel that permission to go where they need to go, and know that, you know, God still loves them and it's safe. It's a safe, he is so safe to be everything with. So, yeah.
Awesome. Done. I love it.
It's
I
always
love it
fun
so
watching
much.
yourself.
It is so fun. I just though that day was so wacky because we drove up north and and then the whole way up it was sort of raining and then it was really raining and then we thought, "Oh no, we're going to have to cancel the shoot." And then we were setting up on the dock and it's raining and we're just like, "Oh man, is this going to work?" And then one of our crew, which is my son Levi, was like the stand-in. He was lying on a towel and he was all soaking wet while they were setting up the shot. I just it's so hilarious. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
Krystle, talk about your you did some you did some hard good acting work again with Tom Carson to
Mhm.
get where you were going. And and in a great way, I was surprised at the choice of intensity. Um, talk about that.
Yeah, you know, I can't be overstated like how much of a an emotionally private person I can be. Which people who know me on a more surface level, you know, I'm very much of an open book until you reach a certain point, and then I become a very closed book, and it takes a lot for people to kind of get past that. I'm a lot better at it. Thank the Lord for my husband, who is very in touch with his emotions and draws that out. He's been working on me for like, I don't know, we've been married almost 15 years. So he's been since the beginning just working at drawing me out. And, you know, that's been a great gift from God, really, having him in my life and allowing me to give me permission to express on the outside all the things I'm feeling on the inside. Um, and yeah, so I think when we were talking about this project and we talked about which song would I want to do, I really felt that people need to see that this can be part of your relationship with God.
Hmm.
That God wants that vulnerability from us. You know, he's interested and he cares about the things that crush us. And you
Yeah,
know, I keep thinking back to that scripture. It says like, my burden is easy and my yoke is light. And it's like, how else can that happen unless you are offering those things to God, and allowing him to carry you? But do we
yeah,
know what it looks like to be carried by God? Like, is that something that we actually show one another? Is that something that we're honest about? Like, I think we're kind of honest, but we don't really get like the messy honest about it. And so I just really
yeah.
felt
I
called to
think
say, like, let's go there.
what's cool about it is people have watched your psalm and they inevitably will say, "I can't watch that more than one time," and I think that's the right response. Like, yeah, you
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I have permission to go there. I don't really want to watch her do that again, but maybe I can do that."
Yeah. Yeah. It's not comfortable. And
No.
I think that's okay. Like, we're not always supposed to be comfortable. And sometimes we are uncomfortable and we don't know how to move past it. You know, like in
Right.
that interview when I talk about feeling crushed,
Mhm.
again, like I handle a lot. I can do a lot. But the reality is, unless I'm passing a lot of this off to God, like I do feel crushed inside sometimes. And that's not comfortable. And it's not something that you willingly subject yourself to necessarily, right? I don't wake
Yeah.
up in the morning thinking like I want to be crushed by the world and the responsibilities and take on more than I should.
This is my
Um,
day of crushing.
yeah, exactly. But when you get there and when that happens, which it does happen inevitably, it's life. Like,
All of
what do
us.
you
Yeah.
do with it then? You know? And so I think, yeah, it's great when people are like, I can only watch it once. Like, I could only do that a few times. And, which meant as an actor, I had to prepare even more so for this moment
Right.
because I knew I wouldn't be able to deliver this like 10 times. I knew I'd
Oh,
only
and
have a
we had that
few good
discussion with the
takes.
crew, right? We
Yeah.
said, all right, Crystal's got about maybe 4 takes in her. I can't even remember how many we ended up with. It was some partial ones, but
Yeah.
we were really big on wanting to do this in one take. And so, we kind of found your rhythm. And then I think you did was it 3 or 4 solid
I did
takes,
4. Yeah, I did 4 takes in the end.
but it was
Yeah.
like, I knew on the fourth one, I'm like, she's not going to do another one after this. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah. You know, practicing vulnerability is hard. And I'll say this again because I get the privilege of commenting on my own actor's reflection and some that like I practice this and I worked with Tom in my studio office here and I actually practice it outside on decks as well and even just in the privacy of my own self speaking those words out loud was hard at first because it is something I do so internally
right.
um, that I had to even just get comfortable with myself, like saying it out loud and not just saying it in my head. And yeah, but I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we did this song, that we captured that moment. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's something beautiful too, and we'll watch the psalm in a minute, but there's something beautiful about allowing that cry of the heart to happen in the surrounding of, like, really when we shot, nobody was in that area. It was just us.
Hmm.
So you could be as loud and wild as you really wanted to be because nobody was around. And there's something incredibly freeing. I know that there's been times in my life where I've gone on a hike in the woods and just screamed and yelled because that's what I needed to do. And you did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's watch Psalm 121. I look up at the vast size of the mountains. Where does my help come from in times of trouble? The eternal creator of heaven and earth and these mountains will send the help you need. He holds you firmly in place. He will not let you fall. So Jason, tell us a little bit for you, knowing some of the acting choices and intentionality behind this psalm. How does that change it when you view it now for you?
Yeah. So um, it was really interesting. When we were editing this, I thought, I don't know. I don't know if people can handle this intensity. That was my honest thought. I thought, this is so honest and raw and real. Is it too much for people because you really went there in a like and you set out to go there. We talked about you going there and you went there, and then I thought, oh my gosh, did we make the right choice to let her just go there? That's what I was thinking in editing. And then Mike brought his music to the whole thing, and we had this
Mhm.
idea to incorporate this kind of 1920s, even before gospel music happened, is like this kind of like the seeds of gospel music,
Mhm.
and then some of the chord progressions and some of the musicality and instrumentation got layered in uh, under your work, and all of a sudden the whole psalm for me just like made sense. And the marrying of your beautiful performance, but and the intensity of it, uh, just made sense in light of the music, and in light of the sounds of the water that were happening under the dock. And there's a couple of moments that I love. There's a like one specific moment where there's like a creaking of the dock that happens, and it really, I was like, oh my gosh, this went from like, I don't know if what people will do with it, into one of my favorite psalms that we've shot because of that,
Yeah.
because there was this marrying of the various elements, and everybody, I just felt like everybody elevated, like I felt like the music elevated your performance and made it really make sense, and made it to be palatable is the wrong word, because but because it's like when you eat something and it's like super intense and you love it, but it's like super
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
And it's like Mike's music brought along some complementary flavors that allowed it to be a meal, and like a beautiful meal. And after those two things happened, I thought, oh my gosh, this is one of the best pieces that we've done. It's just so rich and deep, and I think the marker for me was I can watch it over and over again now and feel like it is a catalytic moment for me to actually get present with God.
Yeah. And I think even for myself watching it back now, you know, to be honest, like as a company, we've just gone through a really intense time with some other projects that we're working on, and it's been great, but difficult. And I'm going, right, like I can cry out. And actually, I spent time this last week before coming to work one day where I just was like, God, I just need to cry out and like offload all
Right.
of this stress and all of the things that are weighing on me. And this psalm is a great reminder. It is a beautiful and necessary reminder that like we're not supposed to carry our burdens. We are supposed to let them go and remember like he is not going to let us fall. Like that's the beauty of that psalm. Like this psalm, and I didn't say this in the actor interview, but like this is one of my psalms for life. Like this is one of the ones that God gave to me. Is like memorize this one because you're going to need it. And boy, have I needed it in
Right.
my life. And
Right.
so yeah, it is a psalm that I genuinely speak out and speak to myself and use to remind myself that like God's holding me in these moments when things are tough. So,
So good.
yeah.
And I think it's
Oh,
part of, really part of the whole um, cycles that we're building. Like it's necessary that we give people a wide range of human expression so that they can
yes.
find themselves. When we started this, my goal or our goal was not to have every person like every single psalm. That wasn't really our
Hmm.
our goal, and I think that's the way we often create, whether it's theater or film or media. I'm excited if one thing connects with somebody. So if somebody
Hmm.
watches all of our psalms and they go, "Oh, it's good," but oh my gosh, that when 42 came, that was the psalm that changed my life. That would make me very happy. I feel like we have done our jobs if we offered them like that nugget in the midst of all the things we're creating. But if we're
Yeah.
able to offer that moment, do you know what I mean? And I feel like
Yeah.
what's beautiful is we desperately needed what you offered,
Mhm.
and somebody and many people will have permission to go there like you did because of the work that you did.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. And for you guys that are watching and that are here with us commenting, thank you so much. We will be responding in the comments as well. And you have to stay tuned because we're going to be doing more of these.
Stay
These are
tuned.
just the first two Psalms in a cycle of 7. So we have at least 2 more of these behind the scene actor interview discussions coming your way. So stay tuned for those. Well, thank you so much for joining with us on this Unlock the Story. I cannot wait for you to see the next one. We're going to be releasing these for sure every month, maybe even twice a month, but you'll have to keep checking back to our YouTube channel to see all the latest videos. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button. If you really enjoyed this video, give us that thumbs up and leave us a comment below. What surprised you as we peel back and look behind the scenes at the Psalms microfilms?